shake my head. You can only root for one team. Why?
Oh, yeah, and I only root for one team. I'm just saying, like, as collectively as a group, we all find it funny to root for a team that only has 2 wins.
So you should root for the Bears this
fun.
year. And then Combs comes back with you and says, Dan Campbell's jersey is no different than selling a Packers jersey with Aaron Rodgers on it. I don't quite understand that.
Here's this quarterback class. Let's see here. So Mark Sanchez was a part of it. Arguably one of the greatest rookie quarterback seasons ever.
Yeah.
Josh Freeman, who had a nice little stint in the NFL for a while.
From the Kansas State University.
Quarterback. Yeah, from there. It was a decent quarterback for Tampa Bay, you know. Yeah. Josh Freeman was a little nice. Let's see here. Pat White was in that class. Stephen McGee. Rhett Bomer, more nothing.
Wait,
Nate
what year is this?
Nothing. 2000. Let's see here.
That was 2010, wasn't it?
2009. 2009. So Stafford was the first pick. Then Sanchez went 5th overall, and then Freeman went 17th. Then another quarterback didn't get taken to the 2nd round. But let's see here. I think
that was my sophomore season at Kansas State.
There you go.
Fun fact.
Let's see here. Keith Null. Yeah, Curtis Painter. There's not. Honorable mention. Let's see the honorable mentions. Oh, Chase Daniel was in that class. Chase Daniels actually does not get the amount of cred that he should.
He's still
there. You want to hear Wyatt talk up on a Bears quarterback?
Still in the NFL.
He is. He's been around forever. So yeah, I mean that class it's not incredible, but it was all right.
Yeah, they had a lot of quarterbacks. Man, that was the year that the Big 12 had 4 or 5 teams ranked in the top 15 for number of weeks. Not Kansas State. We just weren't very good that particular year. But you know what? It is what it is. I still got knocked out and got a concussion. But anyways, guys, it is time for a break. We are up against the next break here on the Man Hour. On the other side of the break, we are going to break down the dreaded AFC North draft grades. Is it the best draft grade out there per division? We'll find out right after this. Per my man, Wyatt Williams. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, gang, it's Commissioner Cooper from TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. That means we give the people what they want. Expert fantasy advice, leading medical and legal analysis, free contests, and innovative games to keep you entertained. Watch us live with the Tiki Live app on the Belly Up Sports channel, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on all social media platforms. Visit TSSFantasy.com today for all the latest updates from the fantasy show of the people. We put the fun in fantasy.
Yeah!
Instead of the mayo
over sour cream, yeah.
Right. That's because you have high cholesterol. Okay. If you drafted Julio Jones,
you got ghosted.
This is amazing. TSS Fantasy is like an orgasm. If I had a cigarette, I'd smoke it. I'm pumped to be here. This is the show of shows.
TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain, I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints, money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name, all our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be, living in a time where disease is on every screen, I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering, negativity is a plague for the mentally weak, no mercy, all I got is working, never stop searching, never quite so thirsty, I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic, you can't stop it, it's been chronic, since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic, go! To last with the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving, got my foot on gas, never stop competing, if you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat and make mistakes.
We're back. Yeah. Not going to happen, but figure it out. And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Michael Buckeister along with the Wyatt Williams. You can find me on Twitter at manhour_Buck. You can find Wyatt at _Wyatt Williams, guys. Be sure to give us a follow on the old Twitter machine. And Drew is a little bit bitter that Kansas State picked up Nebraska's quarterback, but we can talk about college football tomorrow a little bit. But why it is time to break down some more draft grades, and we're going to stick to the North, but we're going to flip to the AFC side this time, and we're going to start with the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens went 8-9 last season. They traded Hollywood Brown to Arizona during the draft, and Lamar Jackson had an injury-riddled season. But how'd they do in this year's draft?
Well, like you said, starting off with the Baltimore Ravens, I was really, really, really impressed. It was a Baltimore Ravens draft. That's pretty much what it was. Guys who shouldn't have been there were there when they needed them, and they just hit it out of the ballpark like they always do. They're incredible at drafting. They got arguably what could be the best prospect in the whole draft in Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. They got him at the 14th pick. Tyler Linderbaum, who could be the best offensive lineman in this draft. He's a center as well. He went round 1, pick 25. So I have another steal there. David Ajabo, this is a huge one here. The second round pick for them, edge out of Michigan. He was actually supposed to be a first-round pick, but he's had some injury stuff that caused him to fall to the second round. So instead of spending a first-round pick on him and, risking the injury and all that, you just spend a second-rounder on him, and you get a guy who's a first-round guy who has some injury issues, but you get him at a discount. So it all really works out. After that, Travis Jones, nice pickup. They added some depth to the offensive line. They added some depth to the tight end position, which I scratched my head at that a little bit, especially when they took the second tight end. I like Likely. I like Likely more than I like Collier. So I think I would have taken Likely and not gotten Collier. I would have gone a different direction because you've already got Mark Andrews. So there's no, you can add tight end depth. But after that, they weren't really, it wasn't like yesterday where we were talking about the Lions and, they had TJ Hawkinson, but after that, it was pretty much just nothing. So they needed to add some weapons, where this team, while they did need to add some weapons, I think the weapons needed to be in the wide receiver core. That was the only knock that I had on this draft from the Baltimore Ravens. The one thing, and I think it's the reason why I did not give them an A+, is because they did not go after a wide receiver. And all they did was trade away their best wide receiver. So, I mean, while they did get another second round or another first round pick, and they ended up taking Linderbaum with it. That's cool. They added to the offensive line. Wide receiver was a huge need in this draft already, and then you take away Hollywood Brown, and that just makes it an even bigger need. So now they're kind of stuck in a spot where they're going to have to rely. Or I will say this, I'm realizing this now, maybe this is them kind of like fully committing to the run game too. Maybe this is them saying like, hey, look, we traded away. We're going to get a guy who can block. We're adding to the defense. So maybe this is them committing to the defense and stick with running the ball. That's what this draft kind of reminds me of here. And they also took a running back with their 6th round pick after J.K. Dobbins got hurt last year, even though he's still going to be the guy there. He's incredible. So overall, I gave him an A. I'd say their best pick, and I don't mean to, shoot down the other picks. I think there's a lot of candidates for this, but the best pick for me is still going to be Kyle Hamilton. I don't mean to just go with the round 1 guy because I feel like that's cheating, but the fact that Kyle Hamilton was even still there at 14 just mesmerizes me. And they got a absolute steal. So best pick was Kyle Hamilton, and the overall draft grade, I'm going to give him an A. Would give him an A+, but like I said, I just feel like that there was a wide receiver that needed to be, not a bunch of wide receivers like the Packers had to draft 3. Some other teams had to really go in on wide receiver depth. They really only just needed to get one because you still have Rashad Bateman, you still have Devin Duvernay, and James Prochet. If James Prochet gets field time, I really think that guy is a beast. James Prochet was a 6th rounder a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I believe, out of SMU. And if you watch his highlight tape, he is explosive.
Yeah.
He's only like 5'11", but his vertical is like 40 something inches. So he can go up over top of anybody, like linebackers. He can go up over top of safeties. He can go up over top of cornerbacks. It doesn't matter. This guy can get up there. On top of that, he's incredibly fast. He's just like, he's super shifty. You're not going to get a hold of him. So I'm really excited to see him finally get his opportunity. This was a guy 2 years ago that was my sleeper pick out of the draft 2 years ago. I really liked him. He was my day 3 guy that I was like, okay, he can make a difference in the NFL. So really, it's all just going to come up to Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, and James Prochet, and also obviously Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins. So they've got the star power. They're just going to have to run more of a. The only time they pass is going to be totally out of the RPO, it looks like, or the play action.
Yeah,
it's going to be really the two things.
Well, that's how Lamar Jackson is rolling the pocket and getting out there and definitely, pushing the ball down the field with his legs. But the one head scratcher in this draft was their fourth round pick. They drafted a punter in the 4th round. You can normally get punters and kickers in like the 7th and free agency pickups, right? So to draft a punter in the 4th round when you could have drafted a receiver or some more defensive help, that's a real big head scratcher to me, Wyatt. So with that being said, with drafting a punter in the 4th round and not getting any receiver help like at all, you're still giving them an A?
Yeah, and I think Jordan Stout, the punter that they got out of Penn State, I still think at that point, I mean, punter is a really important position. And what is it, Cook, who they have right now, he's getting older, and Baltimore really values punters. And I believe they drafted Cook as well. And they've had him for, like, I think we're coming up on 2 decades now. So if you spend a 4th rounder, 5th rounder, 6th rounder, 7th rounder, somewhere in there, if you spend a day 3 pick on a punter, I'm okay with that, especially if it's going to be your guy for a long time, because punter is one of those positions where it's like you're never going to know the guy
right
until he messes up, and you're going to wish you had a better punter or a different guy in a big situation if he screws up. But if you've got a guy like Jordan Stout, who's got a lot of potential to be a really good punter for a long time in the NFL, I really think that's a big addition and something that's vitally important and going to be overlooked for how important that it is to have. Because like I always say, it is much better to have something when you need it rather than to need it and not have it. So
exactly.
I like this. This will put Stout underneath Cook as well for a few years. Let him kind of learn the ropes for a year or two, and then they can make a very smooth transition. Cook can retire or go elsewhere, do whatever he wants, and then it'll be time for Stout to take over, and the Stout era of punting will go on in Baltimore.
Okay, so I am really glad that you justified that pick for me there, and you definitely changed my mind a little bit. So sticking to the AFC North here, the next up is we do have the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns did go 8-9 last season. They missed the playoffs, but they had a very active offseason. They picked up Jacoby Brissett, and they also picked up Deshaun Watson in that quarterback room, so giving them basically 3 starters right now in the quarterback room. However, they did have a draft still. So how did they do in this year's draft?
I would say this was one of the more underrated drafts. I don't think that this was an A by any means for this group, simply because they really didn't have a lot of options to pick to get A guys. Their first picks were in the 3rd round. So they didn't have a chance to get those star guys. But I will say, with what they had to work with, they did a really good job. So like you just talked about, they used the picks that they traded away to get Deshaun Watson. So you get your guy, you get your quarterback. That's settled. Now you got to find something to do with Baker Mayfield. But looking at this draft, I do like what they did with what they had to work with. First off, wide receiver was an issue for this team, and this has been something since even before Odell Beckham Jr. left. And David Bell out of Purdue is a really, really solid wide receiver. I think he's a guy who can come in and he can start for you right away. and he is a guy who you can have in your lineup for a long time. I don't think he'll ever be a, A+ wideout, but he's just a guy who's going to come in and he's going to be a B+ guy for you every single day. He's going to work hard. He's going to catch balls and he's going to score touchdowns. And that's really all that matters for that one. After that, if you look, Cade York, LSU kicker, this was several underrated picks in this. This is one of them. Cade York, we were just talking about a punter. Now let's transition it to kicker. We all know the struggles that we've seen kickers have, especially in the recent years with kicking, because they made extra points harder. They moved it back. Really the only position that it hasn't got easier on over time is kickers and punters. So you need a solid guy. And last year, Evan McPherson was taken to the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Cleveland Browns looked over and they were like, oh, hey, look, they had a lot of success drafting a kicker. Why don't we go do the same with a kicker who is really good and can be a guy who will stick in the league for a long time and can stay with us for a long time? So with their 4th round pick, they went and got Cade York, kicker out of LSU. And I think he's the best kicker in this draft. And like I said, I think he's a guy who we'll see around the league. The Browns are hoping in a Browns uniform for the next at least 10 to 15 years. I think he's a solid guy. After that, I was a little confused with this edition, but let me say it's still an underrated edition. I was still surprised and still liked their 5th round pick with Jerome Ford, running back out of Cincinnati. First off, he's already in Cincinnati. He's an Ohio guy. He understands the culture there with football and everything. So he is ready to go to play for Cleveland and be a win now kind of guy. Now, here's what I didn't understand. If you look at the Browns running back room, they've already got Nick Chubb. They've already got Kareem Hunt. They've already got Dearness Johnson sitting behind that. And then one more running back, I don't remember off the top of my head. But their 4th rounder, their fourth running back, I don't remember what his name is, but since then you add Jerome Ford to the running back room, which is a nice addition out of Cincinnati, as well as Michael Woods, wide receiver out of Oklahoma, their 6th round pick. I think he's a really flashy guy who has some returning capabilities, and I think he could add to this team. And then just overall, they added a lot to the D line, and they added a little bit to the offensive line for some pad there. But the main storyline of the draft here is that the Cleveland Browns pretty much drafted Deshaun Watson. That was how I saw it. They spent the 1st round picks on Deshaun to be able to get their quarterback. So, the Browns have always historically struggled with the quarterback position and drafting quarterbacks and all that. So I guess they're like, okay, after 100 tries, I guess we've learned our lesson. Let's just trade for a good quarterback. Yeah. So that's what they did. They've acquired Deshaun Watson. Like I said, they don't have any 1st or 2nd round picks because of it, but with the stuff they had to work with, I think they got some really solid guys overall. And their best pick for this, I'm going to surprise everybody right here. I'm going with 4th rounder Cade York, kicker out of LSU. Like I said, he's going to be a guy that could be in Cleveland for the next 15 years. And if you take somebody in the 4th round and they're with you for 10 to 15 years, that's a success to me. That's a huge success to me. So the addition of Cade York is absolutely huge for them. I'm really excited to see what he can do for this team and what he can add to the special teams room. So my best pick is Cade York. And overall draft grade, ready for this?
I'm ready.
I give him a B.
You give him a B.
Solid B.
I do like that solid B. So just to add to your point here, I did look up their roster. Their 4th running back that you're referring to is Jerome Ford. I don't know much about him, but I did see him play a couple snaps last year. But I feel like they drafted a running back because of the injury of Nick Chubb last year. You don't quite know how he is going to come back, and Kareem Hunt is on his final year of his contract. He has been signing these 1-year prove-it deals with the Cleveland Browns over and over and over. So to take the words out of your mouth, it's better to have something when you don't need it and need it when you don't have it, right? So it's definitely a questionable pick because you do now have 5 receivers in that room, but somebody's got to go at the end of the day. Also, let's not forget that the Cleveland Browns did pick up Amari Cooper as well in the off season. So that is a very flew under the radar trade there as well. So moving on to the next team here, we do have the Super Bowl runners-up in the Cincinnati Bengals. Their regular season was 10-7, and obviously they were a Super Bowl loss to the LA Rams. So Wyatt, how do you think they did in this year's draft?
I was actually pretty impressed with this one as well. I feel like the AFC North did a decent job as well with their drafts. First off, I think one of the most underrated first rounders in this draft is Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan. Because Kyle Hamilton is so good, people just didn't really take a look at Daxton Hill and how he has a shot to be, if not the best safety, a top 2 safety in this draft class. So I think they solved an issue at safety by filling there, because I don't know, did they get Jesse Bates back? Did they re-sign Jesse Bates?
I think I heard they did sign him back, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Let me check and see if they re-signed him real quick. Yes, Jesse Bates is still on roster, so this is a nice addition here. Daxton Hill, pair him with Jesse Bates. They also went with cornerbacks, Cam Taylor Britt. So I like that pick in the second round out of Nebraska. The big thing here for them for the offseason is they really needed a lot of offensive line, and I was expecting this draft to be mainly offensive line. You know, we saw in the 4th round with Cordell Volson, guard out of North Dakota State. But overall, they got their guys through free agency instead of through the draft. I mean, they got, Kappa and Lael Collins. They brought in Lael Collins and Kappa for their offensive line. So they're bringing in that protection for Joe Burrow to where that knee scar is going to be able to, you can look past it now at least a little more.
Right.
And then, like I said, they just brought in Volson, so another guy that you can kind of universally play him anywhere on the interior offensive line. So he's a plug and play guy, and I'm excited to see what this class can do. Let's see here. Tyson Anderson, safety out of Tulsa, 5th round pick, not a bad addition there. And then Jeffrey Gunter, the edge out of Coastal Carolina with their 7th round pick, just adding somebody on that defensive line, more pad there. So I will say their best pick, once again, I keep on saying this, but I hate going with the first rounder. I feel like that's cheating. But nothing really on their draft card here just stands out to me like Daxton Hill does. I mean, Daxton Hill is a great coverage safety who can also do a little run stopping for you when needed. So I really like Daxton Hill. I like the way he plays. He's all over the field. He's a safety. He does what he's supposed to.
Exactly.
And I think he's going to be a really good addition to this Bengals defense. So people in Cincinnati are going to be excited about Daxton Hill. So that's my best pick for them.
Well, and then just to add to your point there, Wyatt, this guy was supposed to be a top 15 pick, and he kept sliding down, and sliding down. So, I mean, it was a steal, like on the 31 there. So, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to add that point in there for you.
No, you're good. No. I think a lot of safeties for some weird reason kind of fell this year in the draft. I mean, we even saw. I thought for sure there was no way Kyle Hamilton was making it out of the top 10. Yeah. I was going to be surprised if he made it out of the top 7, but I was going to be like really surprised he made it out of the top 10. And then when he went 14th, I was just like, you got to be kidding right now, especially whenever you had the Vikings at 12. And they traded down to Detroit. When the Vikings were at 12, with them already, Harrison's getting up there in age. He's getting older, and it's time to, the Minnesota Vikings have always valued having a defense and a good defense at that. So I was pretty surprised that they didn't take him at 12 and that they had traded down. But this is just another safety in this class who's really good, but did fall. So with that being said, I think they did a good job overall in their draft. Like I was saying a second ago, nothing really stands too out at me other than Daxton Hill. So I didn't want to put him in that A minus category because, like I said, there isn't really a boom factor to this. They just got a bunch of really solid guys who are going to make their team better, but they didn't get a big guy. You know what I mean? A guy who's going to come in. And he's going to be, other than Daxton Hill, and he's going to be a all-pro, just an all-out, just dude. So I gave them a B as well on this.
Yeah, so just not to take anything away from players in this draft, just because being drafted for one is the greatest accomplishment of their young lives, right? Just besides the top 3 or 4 picks, Wyatt, there was that no big player out there that was going to like make that huge splash. Like there was just a bunch of really good players that are going to be in the NFL for a really, really long time. I feel like this is just a solid class from top to bottom, and like that's why there was none of that big splash factor per se. So moving on to the last team here in the NFC or in the AFC North are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did go 9-7-1 last season. They did make the playoffs. The first round loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Big Ben has retired. They pick up Mitchell Trubisky in the offseason and free agency. Wyatt, they drafted a quarterback and some other key pieces on that team. But how do you rate the Pittsburgh Steelers draft?
Well, starting off here, starting off, I had to take a couple of looks at this draft. This draft was pretty interesting to me. I think I was really on the fence of I couldn't decide if the Steelers did a really good job or a really bad job. And the conclusion that I came to was I think they did a really good job. I do. Going forward in the future, Kenny Pickett, he played at Pittsburgh. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's a guy there at 20 who's a good first-round capable guy, a leader at the quarterback position, he's got the big arm, while the hand size may be smaller, he's a good quarterback overall. He was a Heisman candidate. He threw for a lot of yards, threw for a lot of touchdowns. So with that 20th overall pick at Kenny Pickett, I like that. I did overall like that pick. Do I think Malik Willis would have better fit their, not system? Do I think that Malik Willis is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett and is going to have a more successful career? Now that he fell to the Titans, maybe not. But if he would have went to the Steelers, I do think he would have been better. But Pittsburgh went with Kenny Pickett, which I do understand. Like I said, it's the Pittsburgh guy. You kind of have to go with him. So overall, I liked their first round selection. The second round and on is really where it gets interesting, though. So round 2, pick 52, they get George Pickens, who is a menace to society. I mean, he is and I cannot explain this to you enough, perfect Steelers wide receiver. Absolutely perfect Steelers wide receiver. Because look back at Steelers wide receivers. There's always something with them. You have Antonio Brown, who is just extra, always doing, he's the Kanye of the NFL pretty much.
Yep.
If I had to compare him to something. You had Juju Smith-Schuster, who's always on TikTok, all that stuff, drawing the attention. And you look at Chase Claypool, who's drawing the attention for some of the plays that he made last year with like when he's celebrating and they have 10 seconds till the clock's going to run out. And it's like, what are you doing? So it's just like, it was a textbook pick. I was sitting there and I was so confused. I was like, man, why'd they take Pickens there? But when I thought about it, it makes so much sense. George Pickens, if you watch his tape, George Pickens genuinely does love playing football, but more than that, he loves starting SH. Like, he loves starting more than he loves playing football. I mean, if you look at the clip, I don't know who they were playing. I think it's Georgia Tech. He grabs that wide receiver the cornerback by the face mask and like runs him over to the wall and just bashes him face first into the wall.
He was blocking to the whistle.
I guess he's a perfect pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he fits the bill incredibly. They've always got the extra over the top wide receivers, so perfect pick. In my opinion. Leo Devensvin out of Texas A&M, third rounder, a really solid pick. I think he adds to that already stacked defense. That defense is getting too good now because they just added Miles Jack this offseason. They've already got TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cameron Hayward. I mean, there's guys everywhere on this defense. This defense is getting way too good now. Like it's genuinely getting unfair. So the addition of Leal, I really like that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they did a good job for rounds 1 through 3. Also in round 4, Calvin Austin, you get another wide receiver out of Memphis. This wide receiver group for Pittsburgh has kind of been depleted a little bit, and they needed to add some guys. So getting to throw Calvin Austin there in the mix as a 4th rounder, I like that pick. Their 6th rounder is in my opinion one of the most underrated picks in the draft. Connor Hayward. He's brother of Cameron Hayward. So first off, you already get the connection, you already get the chemistry, you already get all that coming with it. It's wrapped up with a nice bow. Connor Hayward can play tight end. Connor Hayward can play fullback. Connor Hayward can be an edge blocker for you. He can go out and catch passes. He can run the ball. He can block. I mean, he is a universal Swiss Army knife for an offense, and I'm a big fan of the way this guy plays football. He's a great addition to this team out of Michigan State, and like I said, he's already got that chemistry. His older brother literally plays for them. So even up to the 6th round, I think they did a good job. Mark Robinson, linebacker out of Mississippi, another solid depth addition here to this defense. They love doing this. They just love adding depth. Yep. And then the round 7 pick of Chris Oladukin out of South Dakota State. I think that pick is more because of the passing of Dwayne Haskins. So because Dwayne Haskins passed away, they lost somebody in the quarterback room. So you need to, obviously you have to fill that spot still. So with them already bringing in Mitch, I mean, at this point, before the draft, all they had was Mitch, and they had Mason Rudolph. And I don't think is Dobbs still there? Is Josh Dobbs still there?
Dobbs is still there. He is listed right now as a 3rd quarterback on the depth chart. So
okay, well, I mean, they've always really liked having a lot of quarterbacks. So, yep. When Haskins passed away, I kind of expected them to. Obviously, they were drafting a 1st-round quarterback, right. But I kind of expected them to go ahead and get another quarterback at some point in the draft, just to fill the quarterback room. Because once again, it's always better to have something when you need it rather than to need it and not have it. So,
exactly.
For them to go and fill that spot, I don't want to say fill that spot because you're not going to fill that spot, but for them to add to the roster where they had a tragic ending to the tragic loss of the roster, I think was a good pick for them. So overall, I was pretty impressed with the Steelers draft. I really was. I think this is, like I said, one of the most underrated drafts for anybody in the league this year. A lot of people really aren't talking about how good they did with this draft. So with that being said, I'm right on the fence still. I'm on the fence. I can't decide if I want to go B+ or if I want to go A- because there's a part of me that really wants to go A- because I think that they did an A- job. But there's a part of me that's like, every one of these picks could not work out. Like, all of these picks are home run or strikeout guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like,
that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a great point.
Kenny Pickett is a home run strikeout guy. George Pickens, home run strikeout guy. DeMarvin Leal, I think he's gonna be good. I think he'll stay around for a while. Calvin Austin, another. Connor Hayward. I think Connor Hayward stays around for a little bit. But just pretty much there's a lot of just hit or miss guys. So at the moment, I'll give him an A-. We'll adjust as time goes on. But for the moment and for the time being, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my book, get an A-, and their best pick is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Oh, well, just to add to your point there, any quarterback drafted for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, is going to have the most success out of every quarterback in this class, whether it been Kenny Pickett or Desmond or Mills or Skylar Thompson or the Zap kid, right? Like pretty much any quarterback that is going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are literally a quarterback away. They have the best defense in the NFL on paper, hands down. They have a pretty solid receiver core. Chase Claypool is kind of the head case, but I think Mike Tomlin has reeled him back in a little bit since he is the guy now. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, like Chase Claypool probably is the guy now since Juju is gone. So maybe that's what he needed. So I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are a scary good team, and I do think Mitchell Trubisky will start this season, but Kenny Pickett is going to be a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a very, very long time. You're looking at a 15, 16, 18-year career, much like Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, no, I think that there's definitely a huge possibility of that, and yeah, I mean, when you look at the wide receiver room too, you've also got Deontay Johnson's in there. He has a shot at being the number one guy. They got James Washington, a solid guy. They got Najee Harris, who catches passes out of the backfield and runs the ball incredibly well. He's like Alvin Kamara, but Najee Harris is like Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry had a baby. Like, it's just like those two mesh together.
I forgot he was even
so
on the
fun to
roster,
watch.
to be honest with you. Like,
He's great. And then Benny Snell behind that. Benny Snell's a great backup running back they've got.
Right.
Then you got to think they got Freiermuth, who they just picked up in last year's draft. So they've got I was very impressed with Freiermuth and everything he did last year as well. So I think Pittsburgh is really setting themselves up for success here. And in, like I said, one of the hardest divisions in all football.
Yeah, hands down, probably the hardest division, even more tougher than the AFC West, which we all think is going to be a really, really good division as well. So last year, obviously the Bengals won the division, Steelers in second, and then it came the Ravens and then the Browns. Obviously, way too early predictions, but who do you have winning the AFC North this year?
Oh, this is tough because it'll all depend on, what happens with Deshaun Watson. I think that's a big underlying circumstance here. If Deshaun Watson, if he's cleared to play and he's going to play, then I don't know. It's like all four teams you can make a realistic realistic argument for all of these teams. And not just a realistic argument, you could make a realistic argument for all of these teams to make a deep playoff run.
Oh, 100%. I
agree. Are we really going to sit here and say that we couldn't see the Bengals in the Super Bowl again next year, or that we couldn't see Pittsburgh doing some surprise stuff, or Kenny Pickett being really good and them going to the AFC Championship, or, let's say Deshaun Watson really does pick it up and does great immediately, and they could go to the AFC Championship. Baltimore's already showed us when they were 13-3 just a couple of years ago that they can be great. So this division is so hard to pick, and I hate that I have to choose this, but I've got to go with an answer. So you know what? I am tired of betting against Joe Shiesty. So you know what? Give me the Cincinnati Bengals to win the division. They went to the Super Bowl last year. They won the division last year. And I think while they didn't do as good as the Steelers did in the draft, or the Ravens either, I still think they added some really nice pieces to the offense. La'el Collins and Kappa are huge for that offensive line, because Joe Burrow needed protection. Like, that wasn't even a question. It was a need at this point. So now they've got 3 or 4 solid offensive linemen. Then they added another through the draft. So they're going to be able to put together a nice unit for the offensive line. You've already got Joe Mixon. You've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, that entire wide receiver core. So they've got the weapons, and their defense is decently stacked as well, with Hendrickson on the other side, Bates. They just got Daxton Hill. So overall, this team is nice. It's stacked. So while I don't want to count out any of the other teams,
right,
I'll take Cincinnati.
Yeah, and Cincinnati. I am not going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Cincinnati Bengals had a 4th place schedule last season. This year they'll have a 1st place schedule, right? So a team that is a consistent staple. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. He has. I don't think he's ever missed the playoffs either. But I think incredible. I think this is Pittsburgh Steelers division to lose right now, because of everything that they did. I do like the addition of Mitchell Trubisky. I like the addition of Kenny Pickett. Hell, I love Mason Rudolph. I'm totally kidding. Mason Rudolph can get cut and fly off like
head.
yeah. But seriously, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the weakest part of their team is the quarterback play, and Mitchell Trubisky was a first-round pick. Kenny Pickett is a first-round pick.
Overall.
Yeah, so like they have the talent there. They have the know-how. They Mitchell Trubisky went to a organization where they run a lot of games, right? And the Buffalo Bills and come to Pittsburgh. So this is the Pittsburgh Steelers, definitely division to lose, I think. Ravens are complete dog trash. They're done. Bengals and Browns they'll be cutting it close for the second place fight there. And just like you said, it all kind of depends on Deshaun Watson of how many games he's going to get suspended, and if Jacoby Brissett can hold down the fort while Deshaun Watson is MIA, right? So
can you imagine if they come to Baker and they're like, hey, we don't know when he's going to be able to start. Could you possibly hold down the reins for us while we wait for him to come in?
So I actually thought that same thing. I'm like, thinking, maybe they are hanging on to Baker because of that very reason, right? But then that very afternoon, I watched a press conference with Kevin Stephani, right? And he said that Jacoby Brissett is the backup quarterback. If Deshaun Watson has to miss any amount of games, Jacoby Brissett is our guy. How can you?
Because that's probably because Baker Mayfield told them to go F themselves, and he wasn't playing. Well, he said that the other day too. He said,
"How would you feel?
He would never play again in a Browns jersey."
Yeah, how would you feel? Like, you led them to the playoffs, the first playoff win in forever, right? What was this, 1992 or something, just like that?
For a long time.
And then you play from week 2 on with a torn labrum in your non-throwing shoulder. I don't care if it's non-throwing shoulder or throwing shoulder. That hurts like an MFer. I had it, and it still hurts me to this day, and that was in 2010, right? I mean, that was 12 years ago. I definitely understand it 100%. So, Baker's definitely getting the 100% shaft there, and my man Trent Mason jumps in the chat here. He gives the Bengals the thumbs down, and he says, "Mark my words, Buck, the Ravens will win 10+ games this year." Well, joke's on you. 10+ games is probably not going to make you into the playoffs this year, Trent. The AFC is loaded, Wyatt.
On this division.
Yeah, the AFC is loaded.
The AFC is loaded. This is going to be one of those years where, what was it? 2 years ago, the Dolphins had 10 wins and didn't make the playoffs. That was
the only thing I could see is the AFC North here is we are going to look at it like the NFC West from last season, when we literally had every team winning 11, 12 games in that division, and they literally just beat the dog crap out of each other every week. And Trent is right. He says defense wins games. Actually, offense wins games. Defense wins championships. They're Trent. But unfortunately, the Ravens don't know how to win playoff games. So you can have the best defense ever, and Lamar Jackson is still going to be overrated, still going to be trash, and still going to get knocked out in the playoff game, right? What's wrong, Wyatt?
No comment. I'm not commenting on your Lamar Jackson slander anymore.
Well, as you guys know, I do have Lamar Jackson as the number 1 overrated quarterback going into the 2022 NFL season, along with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Joe Burrow. So I do have Joe Burrow as the number 5th most overrated quarterback going into 2022.
You have Joe Burrow is overrated.
I do. Because, Wyatt, so I got a privilege to coach Trent there, 4 years ago now. Man, it has been forever. I feel like Trent's getting old, or I'm getting old, one or the other. But when I have kids that start to excel and start to exceed, and I expect them to be there, and they don't get to that point, I ride their asses because I expect you to be up here now, right? And that's exactly where we expect Joe Burrow to be now. We expect Joe Burrow to be up here, and I don't think he is going to be able to get that ceiling as much as we saw last season. That's why I have him as overrated. I still think he's a good quarterback. I love Jamar Chase. I love T. Higgins and like all those boys and what they're doing. But when I expect 90% out of you and you're only giving me 80% over, you get the deemed overrated. And
he was to the Super Bowl last year. They should have not even made the playoffs.
They were 10-7. They won that division. How should they not have made the playoffs?
At the beginning of the season, nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs. That's what I'm saying. Like at the beginning of the season, they weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. They went to the Super Bowl.
So you are right. Joe Burrow did have a great regular season. Actually, let's say from like week 4 on, right? So it was about 3 quarters, almost 5/8, right? He had a really good regular season. Playoffs, he was kind of meh. Right, he was still good, but he was.
No, I disagree 100%.
Okay,
Joe Burrow was exceptional in the playoffs. I thought that was where he came alive. Literally, if he had one more second to throw in the Super Bowl on that last play, Jamar Chase was wide open running down the field.
He was.
Aaron Donald made a, "Hey, I'm one of the best defenders of all time" plays, and stopped the Super Bowl from being a Bengals victory.
What about the Tennessee Titan game when they snuck by there, when they got sacked like 12 times in that game? Like
that's not his fault. That's the offensive line's fault.
He was
horrible.
He was hanging on the ball to over 5 seconds every play. That's why he was getting sacked.
He was hanging on to the ball a little too long, but he still was playing so good. He got them there.
Well, like I'm just saying, when you expect now we expect Joe Burrow to be so great. We expect those 400 or 500 yard games every game. We're not going to see it. We're going to see 250 yard games. 250. He is going to get the Patrick Mahomes treatment from a couple years ago when Patrick Mahomes threw for 5,000 yards, and the next season he threw for 4,800 yards, and he missed a game. We're like, oh, what happened to Patrick Mahomes, right? Joe Burrow's going to get the same treatment, Wyatt. Same
think
treatment.
So?
I know so. Trent Mason says, I think Burrow losing Uzma will be a bigger loss than people are going to talk about. That is very true. Uzma went to the Giants or Jets. It was some New York team. I can't remember for sure, but yeah.
Oh yeah, he went to CJ Uzomah. Yeah, he went to the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a.
He wanted to go make that money.
Huge loss. Drew says, I agree with you, Wyatt. I mean, Drew and Wyatt got like a love connection. It's kind of weird.
No, Drew's just an educated man.
Educated man. Speaking of educated man, we are up against that 2-hour mark here there, Wyatt. Another show in the books for Buck and Wyatt right here on Man Hour AM. Send us out with some good thoughts, Wyatt. What are you thinking right now?
What am I thinking right now? I'm thinking I got class at 1.
Yeah. Nap time?
I'm going to go take a nap before class at 1. So, let's see.
Do you allow your dog to sleep in the bed?
Yeah.
The best feeling ever is when I'm laying there and my big-ass dog comes and, like, lays from, like, my butt down to my feet and, like, curls his body, like, just, like, around my, like around my legs. Dude,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It is freaking amazing. And for anybody that knows, my dog is the most spoiled dog ever, and he like uses his ass to like sit right, and he's sitting here like here now, and he's giving me the look is like either give me a pup cup or it's time for bed. So you figure it out, man. But, all right, guys, we are going to be out for today. Join us tomorrow, 7 a.m. East Coast time. I am planning on doing a live show tonight, so if you guys want to jump in about 7:45, 8 o'clock East Coast time, I am planning on it. That is to be announced here, obviously, just depending on how things go throughout the day. So Wyatt, we'll see you tomorrow, 7 a.m. East Coast time, right here on youtube.com/Man Hour. Guys, have a great day and a better tomorrow. And remember, Wyatt has the best head of hair in all sports talk radio, hands down.